There's been some developments in Yu-Gi-Oh! Product that has caused a really surreal situation, to say the least. We've got deleted content creator sponsored YouTube videos, production malfunctions, and angry Twitter users. Which is, you know, obvious. It must be a day that ends in Y. You don't want to miss this. There's like 4 major topics and aspects to this whole entire thing here, so let's go, I guess, in ascending order of insanity. First thing is the new set Battles of Legend. Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem is the brand new penultimate set to be released in the lead up to the WCQ, now in stores retailing for we don't do that here anymore. So this is a new product that is going to be legal for the WCQ. The WCQs are the events in which you qualify for the World Championship, the absolute peak of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! It's extremely prestigious and no other card game is as difficult to qualify for as Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's a pretty damn important event that needs to be done right. And this set is semi-relevant in the sense that it's got 3 somewhat decent decks. We've got brand new Punk, Orcus, Dragon Maid, as well as a bunch of relevant reprints in this set alone. And while these decks aren't going to break the neck of Malice, Mitsurugi, and Raizio, which are the current dominant forces in the TCG, compared to those of you who are more of the enjoyers of the real card game, the online digital format, where the current meta is, it's still Snake Eye. It's still Snake. Now, historically, Battles of Legend has had some very relevant cards and very important reprints as well. Going all the way back to when I first started playing this game, I remember this set notoriously had the vaunted Soul Charge. Meta-breaking, format-warping card that until today players are still licking their wounds from. But I will say that personally, as a massive, large enjoyer of the Dragon Maids, I just like the artwork. And even Punk and Orcust, this is a really cool set. And players have been playing testing with these decks online for potentially months at this point in the lead up to this event. Not only do we have the WCQs coming up, we have the National Championships. And there will definitely be a large number of players who have been preparing Orcus, Dragon Maid, and Punk, respectively, for these really big, important events. Potentially the biggest event they'll ever attend. And these are really cool decks. I mean, hypothetically, if I was, you know, willing to leave my house and socialize with other individuals, I could see myself picking these up. Now, the first things that's got the Jimmies riled up is the reprints. Reprints are those things that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players rely on in order to have any semblance of accessibility into this game without going on the black market and putting some organs up there. Really, it's just what the Pharaoh would have wanted. Can we please be serious here? Ultra rare Labyrinth Wall. Vanilla. So a quick breakdown of the stuff that is still missing a reprint now that we have the full set list of Battles of Legend. Cash Tiras, Bestials, Fiendsmith, Dominus Impulse Purge, and we haven't had important Magistus Spoon, Sky Striker, Camellia. But we got Labyrinth Wall and every Dragon Ruler. Again, Dragon Rulers! I don't think we need to sit here and rag on Yu-Gi-Oh! Is too expensive for the 19th video in a row, but it's been a while. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is too expensive. Fix your game! Anyway, angry Twitter people is about as inevitable as Gage sitting upon the porcelain throne. At this point, it's like getting mad at the rain, so we don't need to emphasize this too much, but basically TLDR, reprint's kind of shitty other than the Primites, especially in the lead up to the most important events of the year, the National Championships and the World Championship qualifiers in each respective continent. Now that the cold takes and the lukewarm drama is out of the side here, let's get into what is, it gets insane. Now, a couple of days ago, by the time you watch this video, Konami sponsored content creators. Imagine being a sponsored content creator. Like, what kind of person would it take to be sponsored and work along? DZ, Rev Cards, a bunch of people you know posted their early box openings and reveals of all of the reprints, or not reprints, and showcased, most importantly, the new Starlight Rares. These Starlight Rares are much like your Royal Rares, made out of real cardboard that you pull 2 in every, like, case of 12 booster boxes or something, which makes them quite lucrative and valuable monetarily. But there was a slight problem here. Everything is normal up until this point, right? Just average run-of-the-mill product. Now, every single European content creator was pulling 2 Starlight Rares per box, upping the ratios of the European boxes versus the North American boxes 12,000%. No healthcare, no Starlight Rares, just burger. Poor NA players can't catch a break. So the European product of the boxes just have like infinitely more Starlight Rares compared to the North American ones. Sounds like a skill issue so far, right? I mean, just be European, Lamau. But it turns out that this was a bug. This was a mistake. This was not intentional. Unfortunately, the release date for Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem is being pushed back from most territories. There was a production problem that resulted in clumping of the Starlight Rares into a portion of the print run. This would have resulted in more Starlights for some, but fewer Starlights for others. Production will be redone so that the entire release is consistent, but this will take time. The delayed release date will affect Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Oceania, as well as Spanish and Portuguese cards for Latin America. English language cards for Latin America, Canada, and the United States are unaffected and will still have their originally announced release date. The revised street date for affected territories will be announced as soon as available. We will do everything we can to expedite this. Well, I mean, at least there was communication. Yeah, that's something. Okay, much to unpack here, because the more you dig deep into this, the crazier it gets. Some of you probably don't know this, and it's like, why is there such a difference? Anyway, EU and NA use different factories or production styles or something like that. You'll notice the EU and NA cards physically look different in terms of their shading. The embossing on the font is slightly different. It's basically just like different companies essentially are just doing the cards for different regions. But clearly the company or factory or the situation that occurred with the EU has had an oopsie. This isn't privileged information, but it says on the booster pack where these cards are printed, okay? Don't ban me, Konami. I know you were watching. Now, I can only make assumptions and speculations, but I guess what must have happened here is rather than making 2 Starlight Rares per case, the factory, production company, whatever, interpreted it as 2 Starlight Rares per box. Although in the tweet it did specifically say there was clumping. Now that's kind of sounds weird because usually when clumping happens, usually what occurs is you'll get like, you know, multiple Starlight Rares in a box, but different numbers. Like some will have 4, some will have 3 or something like that. Clumping just doesn't really have like a pattern to it. And you saw from the YouTube reveal videos, all the EU creators had specifically 2 per box. But that's just speculation. It's not really that important. Whatever the case is this has been delayed. The problem is that this is where it gets crazier. It's been delayed to be released soon, TM. What is soon? Well, we know for a fact that it's not going to be legal for the upcoming national championships. Italian national championship is this weekend. That was never going to be legal anyway for the set, but the following weekend, UK German national championships, 2 of probably the biggest national championships in the European territories, are not going to have these cards. That's right, players around Europe who've been playtesting for their respective national champions online with the new Orcus, Dragon Maid, and Punk cards are just not gonna have the cards for their tournament. And so all of that time, effort, potentially money that they had put away is going to just be wasted because they really wanted to play these decks at these events, and there's just... they can't now. Go buy some Fiendsmith cards, which didn't even get reprinted, so I mean, whatever. If you wanted to play those new Dragon Maids, you are now maidenless. And so if this gets even crazier, is that if you head on over to the European Sponsored Creators YouTube channels like Revs, you'll probably notice something on the YouTube channel. Where video, the box openings are gone. I don't know if this falls under the potential of false advertising. Maybe that's why, from a legal perspective, they had to be really careful about this and just take it out back for all of these videos. But all of the content creators in Europe have had to delete their videos. 07 F's in the chat for our fallen ad revenue, and it goes even one step further than that. This isn't like some basic error that can be fixed with the flick of a switch, like the hacking situation in Master Duel a couple years ago, where they could just do some code geek stuff and sort everything out. They have to do all of that anyway with the code geek stuff in the factory, whatever the process is on the software. But more important than that is the physical boxes. This is a physical card game. The cards have already most likely been printed at this point. Perhaps it was just the test run that was bugged, although it seems unlikely because it wouldn't have been delayed. It doesn't seem like this is just a basic error. And so it's very likely that there were thousands, tens of thousands of booster boxes just lying in warehouses, not going to be used. Set alight, perhaps. Potentially utilized as toilet paper. There is no real way to fix this other than to just reprint the boxes. We go again, like just reprint the cards. The thousands upon thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of individual cards just have to be reprinted and packaged again. Whoever's responsibility and onus this falls upon could be Konami just miscommunicating their intention with the ratios to the factory. It could be the factory misunderstanding. Whatever the case is, clearly something broke down in terms of communication, and now this is going to affect the players with this delay. Finally, the real ultimate crazy thing about all of this is that the European WCQ, the World Championship qualifier, the event that gets you to the World Championship, the grandest stage of them all, is maybe not going to have this set be legal for it. Depending on how fast John Konami can buckle up and lock in to get all of these boxes printed in time, it seems unlikely that they can get an entire set reprinted, packaged, and distributed in the space of like 50 days or so. So I would assume that there's a very real chance European players just don't have this set legal for the event. So the caveat, I suppose, the quote-unquote good thing about this is that these weren't going to be game-breaking, meta-defining decks in the first place, but I mean, you never know, right? There's going to be a lot of disappointed players who aren't going to be able to play these decks, pet decks, favorite decks. I know that Orcust has a huge fan base and following in and of itself, and people are just not going to be able to play them. So the EU WCQ and the NA WCQ very likely, potentially could have completely different formats. It's like the Confederacy all over again. Boston Tea Party-ass format for the NA. Americans protesting like, give us our damn Orcus card. Well, I suppose EU are the ones who don't have it.
Donnez-moi mon Orcus card, s'il vous plaît. Wo ist dein Punk? Spielen.
And I would do Italian for Dragon Maid, but I don't know any Italian. So, an absolutely wild situation, and unironically, the product situation is crazy. Subscribe if you like this video, leave a comment down below letting me know if you want to see more discussion style videos like this. Follow me on twitch.tv/Farfa while I stream every day all kinds of nonsense and ridiculous Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.